Welcome to Beyond Spend, the podcast where we explore the future of travel and expense management, accounts payable, and payments. We're bringing you the latest insights to help simplify your operations, optimize spend, and drive growth. Get ready for what's next.
Welcome. I am Marnie Martin, the CEO of Emburse, and it is my absolute pleasure to be talking about artificial intelligence, human intelligence, what we're doing to help finance teams and business be even more ready for the now and the future, and technology, something dear and near to my heart and that of our panelists. Again, warm welcome to this edition of Beyond Spend. It's my great pleasure to introduce from one of my favorite car rental and frankly executive sedan services that I got to know when I lived in Germany. Sixt is a wonderful company and one of our delightful customers are very proud to have. Tony, why don't you introduce yourself and your wonderful company?
Sure. Thank you, Marnie. Thanks for having me. I'm Tony Hoffmann, and I'm currently leading financial people management in a global role at Sixt, based in Germany. And over the past years, I've helped transform complex organizations through digital and process innovation. And at Sixt, we've been on a journey already to modernize and streamline people financial operations, specifically for me in travel and expense management and payroll. And my journey at Sixt began a long time ago when I was a travel manager in different companies. I was always a customer at Sixt, and this is maybe the same situation that you just mentioned, Marnie. I was also a loyal customer with Sixt, and my dream was always to work for that company. So very happy again that I'm be part of this episode today. Thank you.
Well, we're thrilled to have you, and we're going to dive into all those topics because there's a lot to discuss. So, John, as you introduce yourself, talk a little bit about what motivated you to create what's now known as Emburse AI, and also how data science brought you to artificial intelligence. We all know you have a lot of human intelligence as well, but I'll be curious how you started to apply that to artificial intelligence and also the beginning of our LLM here at Emburse.
Yes, thank you, Marnie, for having me. I lead the data science team here at Emburse, and I've been here for 4.5 years now. And I've been a statistician for 25 years. And many of the things that I've tried to do in order to identify anomalies or to optimize processes have really required a lot of computational power and a lot of data where we need to train models, from scratch in order to do this. With the rise of AI and Gen AI and the availability of these very large language models, this has changed the game. So I see this as an opportunity for labeling lots of data and building even more powerful models than we've ever had to, before. And it's kind of blown my mind, honestly. Just 5 years ago, I was curating data, and it took us 2 quarters to just curate the data that we needed to build models. And I can get a Gen AI open source model to label data overnight. And we can use all of the proprietary data that we have available and label that for machine learning. And it's really changed the game in our ability to deliver value to customers because we can identify problems. We have all of the proprietary data and the experience, and we can train those models to be purpose built to just, solve those problems. So what has really, kind of won me over is the ability to take all of this math and statistics and, be able to leverage these models to train intelligence very quickly. Before we would have to, do a lot of work in order to just get the basic low-hanging fruit accomplished. And now it's almost autonomous, our ability to identify these issues and to address them. So I'm super excited to be in this role. And really, it's just this time right now is ripe for identifying use cases that can be easily addressed by AI. And any company that has the right, data available, where human intelligence has gone into reviewing and looking at this data and validating this data, it can be all used to build these small intelligent models that we can host ourselves. And I just looking forward to talking more about that.
That's awesome. And also, as a statistician, math, economics person, I'm very happy we have AI and I don't have to do the statistical models the old way anymore. And I'm also very grateful for people like you, John. But that's a great opportunity, Tony, to talk a little bit about, yes, we need to understand how AI works. And I think in travel, expense, and finance teams, we have process standardization and pretty clean data. But how do you actually come up with the use cases at Sixt that you can apply AI? Because I think that's what a lot of companies are struggling with. The technology exists, like John said, but they don't know what use cases to apply it to, and then also how to get their organizations to trust.
Yeah. So I think, first of all, we need to understand, or at least it was our use case here. The majority of my colleagues is using AI to just get a little bit of help in the daily business, like polishing emails, things like that, right? What we did when it comes to reputational tasks, which is exactly the case when we talk about travel and expense, or mainly expense management, we analyzed processes from front to end. And why we did that? We did that because we were on the hunt of a new expense solution. So this gives us the opportunity to have a deep dive on our current processes. You have to understand that we came from a world where we had 5 disconnected systems, mainly on manual processes, creating Excel sheets, sending them around the globe to get approvals. Yeah? Talking about 2 weeks of approval time windows. And with this said, we created transparency in our processes, and then we understood where we can leverage that technology to help us solving real issues in terms of unnecessary workload. And this is where Emburse came into place, right? I mean, we reduced now our processing time, for example, around of 81% compared to the system landscape that we had before. Our approval workflows take not longer than 2 days anymore instead of 2 weeks. So based on that, and I'm talking about 14 countries, you can imagine how much value this technology brings for us as a company. Yeah? And when we talk about trust we talk about trust when it comes to mistakes, or not saying mistakes, or maybe not succeeded projects in this case, I would say that companies should go take a step back, review the process, and then again try to deliver the low-hanging fruits with AI to gain trust again with the management and also within the workforce. Yeah? So also here an example, when a company struggles to get things on track with AI, then maybe just start with a simple expense check based on the simplest expense reports that you have, for example. This will create trust in a very quick way against the management and the employees again. And based on that, you can rebuild and start to create even more value for the company when you implement bigger things after the simple ones. I hope you get what I want to say. But this is how we approach the situation.
Yeah, that makes sense. I'll have some further conversations and questions about digital transformation using AI, but I think it's great what you mentioned about process and review, and that you yourself and the team there at Sixt had the knowledge to bring process, data, and technology together. I think that with some businesses, they've they don't have people that understand all three, and that's partly why they struggle with AI. Do you agree with that?
Absolutely, yes.
I also think that, there was this phrase called explainable AI, and I've sold AI solutions in the past that were a bit more of a black box. There was more like, say, quadratic calculus. It was hard to find the exact right answer. But I think with travel and expense management and finance teams, we know generally what the right answer is, policy compliance or what have you. Did that help at Sixt as you were rolling it out, Tony?
Yes, absolutely. And as I said, now with the solution from Emburse that we have in place, I mean, we have it helps us to solve all those things automatically. I mean, we have the automatic fraud check. Yeah, if there is a receipt entered twice or three times, this was not popping up in the past. Now the system is doing things for us. We have an AI within our OCR, which is creating again value here at the traveler's end, because everything is within the system automatically. The user just need to, or I would say the user don't need to do really anything right now. He just clicks on submit. He just see the total amount of reimbursement amount and say, okay, this is okay. Let's submit it. And then we have we have still a human check behind that, right? On bigger amounts. And this is where the checks then takes place. But at the end, we create value at the end user, which then makes it possible for our end users to concentrate on the things that really counts, their work, and not creating expense reports. So, so the solutions from Emburse gives a real value here for us.
I love that. And that's a great point, which probably we should use in more marketing, that no end user's job is to just create expense reports. That takes them away from doing what is their real job. So going back to you, John, again, we've spent a lot of time enhancing what our AI can review, but you've benefited from an approach from the beginning when you were actually starting out on the pre and post processing of having secure data, proprietary data, but also training accuracy. Talk a little bit about the importance of our pursuit of accuracy in expense management generally, and how we've used artificial intelligence to do that. Because we never really had the issue with OpenAI having hallucinations or some things that have slowed the adoption of other LLMs. Why don't you explain why?
Yeah, sure. And a couple of major questions there. Security, and that was the thing that we considered first and foremost, is we needed to take care of our customers' data. And then secondly, accuracy. How do we get high accuracy? And we've been plagued by a number of issues in the past, and I'll get into that. Security is so important. And I think this is where a lot of companies miss the boat in delivering AI, is that it's so tempting to identify one of the major, commercial large language model, Gen AI offerings such as OpenAI, Gemma, Anthropic, and just wire it up and call it done. And in those cases, people are struggling with hallucinations and inconsistencies. And so we've decided to build a platform that enables us to plug and play any large language model, any open source model, and be able to train it using our own data. But not only that, we built our platform so that there's essentially these bookends. And we have a pre-processing step that validates all of the data going in to ensure that there's not sensitive information, to ensure that the context is appropriate for what we're trying to identify and have it help us with, and ensure that that information is consistent with expectations of what we're trying to get from that LLM.
Be there a moment so people understand. So effectively, the pre-processing step that we're doing is what a conventional expense management platform would do. So it's saying data's accuracy, we validate it against policy, et cetera, et cetera. And then we take it from there. That's what makes Emburse special. I just wanted to pause that so people understood what pre-processing meant.
No, that's great. And then we do very simple things like making sure that it is indeed a receipt or an expense document. it sounds strange, but one of the first tests that we did was I basically challenged my team to build in a receipt, just fake a receipt that actually had prompt injection information. So to try to get our AI to do something other than what was intended. And so that pre-processing step ensures that no additional prompt or instructions also are inserted into the LLM, so that we only get the responses that we're expecting. Now, that doesn't guarantee it, but we have a post-processing step that also evaluates every output from the LLM and compares it to full OCR text, which we run in parallel as a validation. And we also consider what the expectation is for each of those entities before we send it on to the customer. So we've got kind of a two-pronged approach to ensure that the LLM and Emburse AI is actually providing value to the customer without any hallucinations or things that they have to kind of weed out. So that was very important to us. And all of this runs within our own private, cloud account, so that we're not going out to access or send out data to a model from our customers. All of this is done in-house, and we use those larger models commercially available to do labeling so that we can train our own models that we host internally. This also enables us to do this efficiently. So in the past, and a lot of large language model users are spending upwards of $1 per page to actually extract information. And we've done this in such a way so that only key information that we know we have low confidence in is actually being extracted by the LLM. And we have other information that are using smaller models, that we know for total amounts and basic things that are very, very accurate. So we have fully optimized the system where we're able to do a page for half a cent. It just is it's transformational so that we don't have to add that cost for our customers. Now, accuracy was another thing, and that's where my initial comment I get so excited about, because in the past, when we built machine learning models to do similar types of things, we had to have that data labeled by humans. And humans are very intelligent. But
it's one of the issues with ML or machine learning based models. Mm-hmm.
Exactly. Yeah. And humans, though, get bored, and humans get tired, and humans get
Tony knows that. That's why he wants the system to do the checks.
That's right. Nobody else.
Absolutely.
That's right. So,
and the system, and John, if I may add, the system works 24/7, right?
That's right. And that's a great point, because I can overnight, while my team is sleeping, getting rested, have a model label stuff so that they don't have to do this work, or we don't have to pay others who are even less interested in getting a good result to do it. I've done a study on large organizations that do data labeling, and even with just 4 items to label on a receipt, they are barely able to achieve 90% accuracy. Now, 90% accuracy is not bad, but you're never going to get a model to exceed 90% accuracy if your data labeling is not more accurate than that.
So, pushing you to 98%, like our old statistical confidence intervals.
That's right. And so with language models, and what we've also done is we don't trust a single one. We have dueling language models, and I've gotten lots of comments on everyone wants to go to a dueling LLM bar type of thing, a dueling piano bars. But we actually use multiple LLMs to have a consensus on labeling. And then that labeling we consider to be, kind of the gold standard. It's been reviewed by several LLMs. Even a human couldn't go through it and make it more accurate. We take that data, train smaller models to do specific things like extract the vendor or extract the VAT taxes. And those specific models are able to do so at 98+% accuracy. And so, again, the ability to label accurately and enrich your data, to me, is the best thing that we could have ever gotten with for machine learning and to make it more accurate. But it's truly exciting that we can achieve these accurate models in a shorter amount of time and not have to go through the tedious work of data labeling And, to me, that has been just a major recipe for success in using this technology.
Let me explain also in, say, layman terms for those listening why that matters. It means that our data never gets stale and we can continue to enrich it, both generally as we add other software technology use cases, but also we can do cool things for our customers, right? So, Tony, thinking through how we get you to 98% auto approval and also continue to enrich how this works and understands Sixt and what you want to do with travel and expense, what's top of mind going forward? Like, this is an ever evolving area.
Good question. And I think we need a little bit, or we need a little bit, we need to take, or we need to be cautious when we answer that kind of question, because I think a lot of companies and also the workforce of it, there is also, or they're a little bit afraid of AI. At least this is what I recognize over here in Europe as well, or at Europe, because the majority thinks, okay, when AI is taking over, I will lose my job and so on. I think this is something that we need to change. Yeah, we need to change that behavior or that thinking, because for us, and especially for me, AI is a huge opportunity to make huge steps forward. So when I think about, John, you are the professional when it comes to technology, but when I think about AI agents who can execute tasks from a beginning to an end, this will be then for me the next big step within the 1 or 2 years, where we can really say we can integrate full end-to-end workflows to AI to get things solved. Sure, we need to build up new teams, new professionals to have a look on that. Or better say it better like this: we can develop them out of our teams, right? But this will be the next big thing for me within my organization. Example, I can give you an example when it comes to approval workflows. We have also the pre-approval by Emburse implemented globally here, which helps us to have a really tight compliance net when it comes to travel and spending. Imagine that someone is on vacation and the system automatically detects, based on the settings that we have, who will be the next level up manager. I expect then the system is sending the approval to the next manager when the system sees that the other one is out of office. Things like that, which helps us again to reduce the manual interaction within simple workflows.
That's actually a great segue for us to talk about agentic AI, because we have lots of thoughts and many topics to discuss there. But I think it's important that, in the first case, both of you are agreeing, and I agree, that minimizing after submission audits, approval processes, productivity, reducing fraud, compliance, all these sorts of things are what we can do today. And anyone that's not using that is losing productivity. So I think that's definitely where we are with Emburse today. I'm also really excited about the agentic AI use cases that are coming. So let's migrate to that, because I used and sold some of the early chatbot and other things. And, if the knowledge base was good, they weren't bad, but also the NLP wasn't the natural language processing and understanding intent wasn't very good. So John, why don't you start from a technology perspective first, kind of where agentic AI is today, how we're approaching with the first T&E use cases, and then we can have a dynamic discussion with Tony.
Yeah, no, it sounds great. So agentic AI, the ability for AI to actually interact with the tools that we use every day is going to change our lives. We're working on finding the right use cases within Emburse to implement this. There's definitely travel booking is ripe for this, because the opportunity to describe what you're looking for and then have an agent go off, search, identify, make decisions, compare, all of those things can be done for you autonomously and bring that information back to you to make those decisions. So I mean, that's going to really, I think.
Let me pause you there a second, because I think we can add a little bit of context and I can ask Tony to comment. So, for those that have used AI in assessing consumer preferences, that consumer preferences are about as complex as behavioral economics to understand. But in our case with travel and expense management, at least for business travel, we pretty much can use the policy and the guidance and past preferences to make it more accurate. So that helps, right, John? And I assume, Tony, you'd agree too?
100%. Yep.
So talk through a little bit about how and why you can take what we've already been talking about related to policy, user behavior, the knowledge already of what is accurate AI-enriched data into returning a better experience with agentic AI for travel bookings.
Yeah. So by, leveraging agentic AI and the data, so making, I think you had a great point in terms of making sure that the data is organized properly, but things are moving so fast that chaining together agents to do all of these tasks in order to achieve the goal is now becoming a reality. So a year ago, I was very much, hey, we need to have a knowledge base that is all together, all of the data in one place, consistent, so that the AI can have an easier time going through this information and understanding the full context to make the best decision.
It was the problem in the past. If the knowledge bases were fragmented, it was really hard.
Right. And now with agents, I can literally string together multiple agents to go out to multiple data sources to find what's necessary, bring that together, and then make decisions. And so the agents are taking out the need to build complicated infrastructure in order to actually run your AI on. And it's moving so quickly. Model Context Protocol, which has been out for maybe 6 months, is now was open source by Anthropic, but it's an open standard that basically gives you a protocol in order to set up communication between AIs. So no longer now do we have to worry about wiring up custom adapters and solutions for every AI we build. We can use this protocol in order to ensure that all of our models can talk to each other. So this now gives us the opportunity to, like I said, go beyond the infrastructure, leverage what we have, and use these agents to find the data, find policy, summarize information so that it can bring it together for us so that we get the best decisions.
Sorry, John.
No, jump in, Tony, because I think this is a really important time for you to talk about how that also builds trust if it's more accurate and more intuitive for your users.
Yeah. What I would like to add here as well is also it gives the flexibility for organizations to connect different systems, right?
Good point.
5 to 7 years ago, I was listening to a keynote by a travel manager, and he said he wants someday that the travelers are pushing one button, giving the destination and the time where they want to travel, and the result is that they have an itinerary and the trip is booked. And I think 7 years ago this was not imaginable. But now I think we are really close to that. Yeah. So talking about we have a different online booking engine and different expense system, both systems talking to each other. And now coming back to AI, I think the power is also the predictive power, right? So helping me to forecast spending trends, helping me to see why are hotel prices so high, maybe giving me the recommendation to postpone my trip for 1 or 2 weeks to save money. Things like that will be the real benefit in the future when it comes to agentic AI and the predictive power. At least this is what I want to achieve for my company.
Yeah, that makes sense. Because, now as we're blending what is possible, you can have what we used to call kind of goal seeking. Like, I want to spend this. I want to maybe have more of a dynamic policy approach that can be elastic to different months in the quarter, economic conditions, demand, whatever. But agentic AI helps to bring the data together in ways that also continue driving productivity, because similarly to how we don't want it to take too much time to issue or submit a compliant report, we also don't want it to take too much time organizing travel.
Yeah, and also exactly what you say, Marnie. When this works, we will again build trust within the company, because right now you have audit departments, finance departments also always have an eye on that. Is the data flowing into our finance systems
Yes.
correct? Is it checked? Are the approvals correctly performed, and so on? And if we can prove that this works, then we have built the trust also internally, which is super important to have success on projects like that, right?
No, definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Let me ask you
also,
also a question. Sorry to interrupt you.
no
But as
problem.
you weave in the next thoughts, this should also impact finance, travel, shared services, right? Because you won't need people to do some of these tasks that have been a conventional
Exactly.
offshore or other type of shared service structure.
Absolutely. This is what I mentioned at the beginning, right? I mean, I have now agents checking expense reports on a daily basis when they are complex, right? And um, based on the power that we have with the future technology, we can release them from that. And but this, I said this already, so let's skip that, money. Sorry.
Well, and
Okay,
I
no worries.
Tony, to your previous point on keeping it small and demonstrating the value to gain trust is huge. And that's what I'm trying to do with agents first at Emburse, to just solve some of our internal problems. Our team built an agent within Emburse AI that it sounds simple, but what it does is it does internet searches. And so what I
Mhm.
want to do is enrich data. We currently procure a lot of data today, whether it's hotel data from North Star or business data from Dun and Bradstreet and so forth. A lot of this data can be just kept up to date, even, more regularly by doing it yourself. And so, but the problem is that takes hundreds of thousands of internet searches and scrapings. And so Emburse AI now can take
People added a lot of cost to OpenAI when they were developing their models.
oh yeah, I mean, that's, so I won't, OpenAI had a revenue of $3 billion last year, and they spent $8 billion. So, they're far from making money, and I don't know that they ever will, because now they're worth 300 billion, on paper.
Mhm.
So, doing this efficiently has always been important to me, and making this sustainable and making sure that we are leveraging this technology without like burning, a huge footprint of carbon, and so uh, it was really important to identify small use cases that could help us out to just win people over with agentic AI. Our travel team is working on the agentic booking tool, but to help excite them, I built this agent that just goes out and cleans data. It does internet searches. And like I said, I built I created a CSV file of each row was an instruction. Go get this information about this hotel. Go get this information about this vendor. And it ran 1 second per row. So it takes a little time if you got a couple 100,000. But imagine having a team of people go out and do this work. How long would it take? Right.
Let me also give you some more use cases, because what you've built out, and I don't know that we've even talked about this yet, John, but what you built out in that example, of course, ties in with what we do with Reshop. So we'll talk about that in a moment, because Reshop collects a lot of really interesting data that ties in, but also we can rethink how know your client, know your customer KYC software is done. We can rethink how procurement and vendor analysis is done. What you just talked about enables us to move to a new generation of software that isn't like the old days when we were recreating paper processes, but actually using the power of the software. So, Tony, when you think about that, as you build trust, more people become comfortable letting your system that you've built there at Sixt work, and you're really driving digital transformation from that platform of trust. How do you think about how do you think about what next to do? Are you thinking about additional productivity? Are you thinking about user experience? How do you decide what next to do? Because you're already ahead of a lot of companies.
Yes, it depends a little bit where the journey is going, right? I think there are a lot of different things needed to be considered here. Yeah. So first of all, the growth of our own company. Secondly, the importance of several projects. I would say from my perspective, my personal perspective, let's do small steps. I mean, we at Sixt, we are not investing in large generalized AI models because they often require enormous computing power and high energy consumption, operating costs, and so on. That's why we are focusing more on specific tasks. Yeah,
Yep.
a more focused approach. Then we build purpose task-specific AI,
Right.
which we achieved with Emburse. Yeah, so we have the precision on specific tasks. And my target when it comes to my departments is to taskify the end-to-end processes and then take them
Yes.
and then take them out and automate them. Yeah. So in the first step, we did that with RPA, right? But this again needed development, involvement internally, it used resources and so on. So this is what we will do first. We will do it not slow, but we will do it with patience. And then I think from there, again, building trust also on data security. I don't know how, I mean, you have the best view on the US market. Yeah, I'm based in Europe. I think it's the same across the globe, but the GDPR, data privacy, things like that, all of that needs to be considered. And that's why we need to be very go ahead with precision. Yeah. I mean, when I talk about payroll, very sensitive data, right? This is how we approach the situation. And then from there, it's hard for me to tell you what we are doing next or in the next 2 years. But based on our successes, we will enhance our footprint on AI.
Yep.
Come back and ask you a question on kind of how you're looking at broader expense management and employee driven spend in a moment. But I just want to highlight what you said. I've studied and worked, even ran public companies in Europe for more than 10 years of my career. And, GDPR is a big part of what we do. And there's a lot of other data residency requirements in other countries around the world. So one of the advantages that John and the team here at Emburse built from the beginning is that we can localize Emburse AI alongside the localized databases, right? So the data stays private and secure with all the compliance metrics, and AI isn't run independently. We don't have to ship the AI to different databases. John, why don't we go back to this because it's such an important point.
Yeah, no, it is critical. And this is why we are leveraging our data to fine tune open source models, because we don't want to rely on commercially available models where we have to send our customers' data somewhere else. So making sure that Emburse AI was built on open source and in such a way that we could host it efficiently. And there's a number of different processes that we go through in order to do this, essentially distilling and pruning the information from an open source model and replacing it with the parameters most important to what we're trying to accomplish. And so this enables us to make these models fairly small, 4 billion, 8 billion parameters, where we can actually host them efficiently, and they don't cost very much to run. So that's critical, because as we identify additional use cases, we're going to want to have other instances of these models to do specific tasks. And Tony, I love what you said, because taskifying is a great way to get other people to think of use cases, right? Like I mentioned, searching the internet. Like, no, most people aren't thinking, I need AI to help me that. But if you have 200,000 searches to do, you need AI to do that, right?
Then it helps.
Right. So in one of the, I think, most difficult things that I've had to do in this role is to get others to adopt AI across the org, because I honestly feel that, yes, my team, we have a lot of experience. We've been building models for a long time, but it's a new day and age. Everybody should be using AI, and everybody should be including it in their arsenal of tools to deliver software and value to customers. So identifying with other teams, what are those tasks that you would like to automate? What are those tasks that you could use an agent to just handle that for you autonomously? And I think those are the ways that we can get other teams to identify the value and adopt AI. We're already using a number of, different tools like coding assistant type tools. And I think there's some value there, but it does initially create some resistance and fear, especially among programmers who think, oh my God, my job is going to go away because, AI can do programming. But what this is going to enable us to do is to have higher quality coding and more available time to put together the unit tests and quality control testing necessary to build good software. And I think not enough time goes into the quality and so much time into bug, in troubleshooting that is going away, and we can spend so much more time in
on innovation. Well, it helps that you have a CEO that's been involved and interested in AI from the early 90s. So that's helping drive adoption here. And I think that, per your point, Tony and John, you're both talking about the easiest use cases to sell people on are the ones they least like doing. Okay. Complex travel bookings, filing expense reports, doing quality reviews and having to recode things, right? If people can be more efficient from the get-go, then AI starts to be something they love versus something they fear. So Tony, I'm going to go back to you thinking about, yes, there's a discussion of hybrid versus office work, et cetera. But I think, we have a lot of dynamic purchasing now with employees, that there's rules and policies around not just travel, but employees can purchase a variety of things. Yeah. How do you think about some of the, say, how you've configured travel policies, how you're thinking about configuring in the future and going forward employee expense purchasing policies where you might not use a conventional PO to invoice anymore, or maybe you have options to do things differently in the future?
That's a good question, Manny. I think I can't answer that only on my own, so I can give you my perspective on that, but for this, I would also need the procurement department in here because they are owning that process. But what we did with Emburse already is, when it comes to our travel policy, we, in the current state, give the maximum freedom to our travelers as long as they act in the best interest of the company. Yeah, we are not a big fan of strong regulations here at Sixt, as long as the result is what we expect. That means if an employee needs, and this is just a rough example, if there is a need for a new computer and the process from internally takes a little bit too long and they need it right away, and the reason for it is really valid, then they can go ahead, buy it, put it into Emburse, and then our intelligent workflow informs our asset accounting and procurement automatically about that purchase. That means we have that asset automatically within the system. The end user is able to work.
Write-off, yep, whatever.
Right, yeah. So all those things are already covered with Emburse Enterprise here. We are very at Sixt, we are a very dynamic company, I would say. So things can change. That means we also will have changes within the travel policy in the future, which will definitely happen. And maybe it will be a little bit more strict in the future. And then we will amend this. But at the end, we never can, or we can't stop that kind of behavior, because business sometimes need to act and need to purchase things that may be not in policy. Those are things that we can't prevent, but which we can work with on with detailed reportings and pre-checks within the system when it comes to expenses.
Well, I think that's a great point to come back to you, John, is I remember, just as an example, credit card companies obviously care about fraud, and we also bring in from our payments and credit card all the fraud details we can pull from other sources as well. But when you aggregate the data, like you talked about how our LLMs can learn better and faster, we can pull in all these data points, right? When Sixt in this example does allow an out of policy legitimately, when we're pulling in data from payments or vendors or things like that. Just as we start to think about wrapping up, why don't you talk a little bit about that? Because that's how I think with the data we have and our customers in secure and private ways, that we'll never run out of use cases. What are your thoughts?
No, that's a great point. And Gen AI and AI in general has enabled us to do a lot more personalization and a lot more customization for customers. Just several years ago,
not with code, but customization by understanding data, you mean?
Yeah, customization for what's important to them in terms of their policies and in their business, right? So if, in the past, we've been able to build models training it on our data, most of the time it was a consensus-based model, right? It was looking at what all of our customers and all of our AP managers across the enterprise were doing and how they were making decisions and learning from that, which is great. And it provides, across the board kind of blanket high-level accuracy. But when it comes to what Tony cares about at Sixt, it may generalize too much. And so with AI today, we can now be more specific by providing that context. Hey, this is Sixt car rental. This is the customer. This is their policy. Put that in the context. And now given that, what is it we want to know, right? And so do we see something that looks
and policy, but also like hotel, air travel bookings, other sorts of expense asset rules, like anything you might want to contextualize that, right?
That's right. So that's where I'm really hoping to take this in the next year is how do we build and inject that dynamic context of all of our customers to the prompts so that we can get exactly what they need. And my team will probably, if they're listening to this, they'll probably be a little nervous, but like we are moving towards a future where customers will be able to create their own prompts and leverage Emburse AI.
Within reason. Mm-hmm.
Of course, in order to use it as a building block to create more value within our system for their company. And so by, enabling this technology to, and again, not that I'm a Grok user, but Grok, it just came out with a 1 million context token window, right? So the context of these things are growing, and we're going to be able to put even more information so that my inference can be exactly what Sixt needs, right? And it can be exactly.
Yeah. I think just as we start to wrap up, because I see Tony getting excited and I definitely want to get to him, but I think that's also why it matters how we're approaching Emburse with the end-to-end travel and expense, and within expense, also looking at the entirety of expense. So not having such artificial delineations between what are travel-based expense and other types of expense. So I definitely saw you light up, Tony. What do you think about what John was just talking about?
Yeah, so when we talk about the current travel market or landscape, I mean, everyone is talking about dynamic pricing. I mean, look at the airlines, look at hotels, look even at the rental car market, right? So working with static policies and static system rules sometimes, or in the majority, makes no sense anymore. I have a perfect example for that. Yeah, our headquarters in Munich, and we have Oktoberfest, right? Then
I'll see
the
you
rates
later
are
this
going.
year. I'll be there.
Yeah, right. Yeah. Maybe we see each other there, right?
Yes.
But then it's nearly impossible to find a hotel room within policy and so on, which is then
Yes.
flagged to specific board members or something like that, which is at the end wrong, right? Because and this is where also AI comes into place when we have dynamic policies in place which are adapting to current needs and market trends. This will help us also to stay compliant also for the employees, and which gives them a better feeling when they are traveling for the company. So I'm really excited to see that in future.
Awesome. Well, bringing this home, we talked about how we all are excited about technology, how we're all excited about Emburse and where we're going, but really at the heart of it, it's how you can drive forward digital transformation, blending together human with artificial intelligence in ways that matter. I think we all agree on that.
Definitely.
Thank you so much, Tony and John. I could talk to you all day, and I think everyone will find, like me, this is a fantastic episode of Beyond Spend. So anyone else that wants to give us more suggestions for additional episodes, Tony and John can do a recap as we move forward, maybe 6 months and our first agentic AI launches, as well as this is just a wonderful topic for the future of expense management, travel, and frankly, every business and user around the world. Thank you so much again for your time, Tony and John. I really appreciate it. Have a wonderful day for all of you watching this. And I hope, again, like us, you enjoyed this Beyond Spend podcast.
Thank you for having me, Barney and John. Much appreciated.
Pleasure.